Hello and welcome to Books Up Close, the podcast. I'm Chris Lloyd. This is the close reading show for writers, readers, and anyone who wants to know how texts get made. In today's episode, I talked to Sasha Debevec-McKenney about her poem, What Am I Afraid Of? From her collection, Joy Is My Middle Name. Sasha is the author of the poetry collection, Joy Is My Middle Name, from Fitzcarraldo. She received her MFA from New York University, was the 2020-21 J.C. and Ruth Halls Poetry Fellow at the University of Wisconsin, and a 2023-25 Creative Writing Fellow at Emory University. Her poems have appeared in places like The New Yorker, The Yale Review, The Drift, and Granta. She was born in Hartford, Connecticut, and is currently an assistant professor of writing at Grand Valley State University. Thank you, Sasha, for joining me and braving the snow.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I wanted to talk to you for ages. As soon as this book came out, I mean, I'm on, like, the Fitzcarraldo is, like, my thing, right? I'm deep Fitzcarraldo hive. And as soon as I heard there was a poetry, like, series coming out, I was like, okay, let's go. And first it was, like, Diane Seuss, and I was like, we were just, like, in. And then this title, Joy Is My Middle Name, came up, and I was like, I do not know who Sasha is. Diane's right there. I was like, I don't know Sasha. Who is Sasha? And I bought it, like, instantly. I was like, click. And this book was, like, not what I was expecting, I don't think. It's so full of stuff and life and thoughts. And it was really hard to pick a poem to talk about with you today. And I suggested this one, and your reply by email was like, why does everyone like this poem? And I really want to know, is that because you're just, like, surprised, or is it just not a poem you feel strongly about?
No, I think it's like genuine surprise. And also it's a poem that I'm comfortable with now. But for like the first year after I wrote it and I would like read it places, I would literally have like, I would start like hyperventilating because I feel like it's really easy for me in my poems to like embarrass myself and stuff. But it's hard to like actually talk about how I feel genuinely. And I feel like this was like one of the first poems where, because the book is so like, it's my first book. It's a collection of like all of these things I've written since like 2018 to 2023, And so that I feel like that poem was like this turning point where like I had been out of my master's program for like a year, and I had like been in COVID, like it's a much quieter poem than like the kind of thing that I had been writing before.
Yep.
And like lines are shorter. And so like, it's this poem that feels so vulnerable to me in a way that I like have a hard time explaining to people. Like, I love that people love it. And it's also like, it has been a good reminder to me that like, I can tell people how I feel, which I think is like a crazy thing for me to be like, I have problems with that because that's like the whole thing. But it is hard because like that poem felt like really serious to me when I wrote it. Like, yeah. So I'm happy to talk about it though. I love.
Okay, good. But that's always the thing, right? Like when I'm picking like a poem or an extract, I'm always like, do I pick a poem or an extract that like exemplifies the book as a whole, or one that I'm like, what is this thing here, right? Yeah. Like often I talk about the opening of a novel because it's quite easy to get into, but sometimes I'm like, this page here is wild and it stands out from the rest, right? And I think this does stand out in different ways, but it also has your comedy and your wryness and your interest in what language can do, and language that like feels real. Anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. But how do you feel about close reading generally? What is your relationship to it?
I feel like I'm kind of bad at it, honestly. Like I think I'll be able to do it with this poem literally because I wrote it. So I can be like, oh yeah, I get that. But I think that like, I don't know. I think sometimes a close reading can make a poem feel like a test, that like you have to get right. And I feel like my job is like teaching creative writing, like in intro classes and like teaching new poets, like undergraduates. And so close reading, sometimes I'm like, this is your experience of what it's been like with poetry. Like there's a right and wrong answer.
Yep.
And so I feel like, and then for me too, like my poems like are really accessible. And I think a lot of poems I read, I just like, I can't enter them. And then it feels like embarrassing to be like, I don't know what this says. It's like, I get like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I love a poem that's a riddle. And like, for me, I'm like, I love when a poem like, that's what makes poems good is they open up and they change, but like, you have to let me in
like a
little bit at first. And so I feel like when I do close readings in my class, it's always in this place of like, there's no wrong answer. Like,
Yep.
maybe it's because I'm lazy, but I don't go in being like, all right, here's the 10 things I need us to talk about. You know, it's kind of just like, we're just talking about a piece of art. Like, what did you like about it?
Yep.
Like, what didn't you like about it? What was confusing about it?
Yep.
But I don't know, like, I think if we're talking, I mean, there's a poem in the Diane Seuss book, Bluish, that's about a knife. It's like, I bought a blue knife, it did not save my life, or something like that. Yeah. It's just like the best poem ever. And like that poem, it's like, I feel like in my copy of the book, every time I read it, it's like I'm adding to my close reading of it. But that poem is like, it rhymes and it's ominous and beautiful. And like, there's all those things that made me want to keep coming back to it. Like, it wasn't like a challenge. So I love a close reading, but I think it's like a beautiful, special thing that you have in when you read a book. And instead of being like this thing we do in classes where they're like, you don't understand what the blue means, so like, you're stupid.
Yeah. No. And I think that is like a long tradition of teaching literature, and especially for kind of like to pass an exam or to pass whatever. And so much of the work I'm doing with my students is like, whoa, throw that out the window. What are the vibes? Like, what do you respond to or not? And they're like, yeah, but the meter must be there for a reason. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. Why don't we just talk about it together? And sometimes that sticks and sometimes it doesn't stick. And I'm really interested in how much like habituation there is to be like, this is what a close reading must be, or this is what poetry must be. So I think that's why I'm kind of drawn to your work, that like on the surface, it feels very accessible. And then you're like, wait, what's going on? She did something weird here. And I'm like, yeah, there's something else happening in the background, which I think is fun. But today we're talking about What Am I Afraid Of? I'd love if you could read it for us first and then we can dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. What am I afraid of? The silence, the thoughts that come with it, the sinking suspicion that something more is wrong with me than anyone knows, including myself, including the doctor who hooked me up to the EKG machine and said that though my heartbeat was irregular, the irregularity was normal. It was nothing to worry about. The doctor told me there are two kinds of people: unhealthy people who refuse to get help, and healthy people who always think they're dying. Nobody's in between. But I've met so many kinds of people who stretch before they get out of bed, people who walk through life unstretched, people who think their body is a house, and people who don't think of their body at all, people who peel their carrots, people who don't, people who stand on the roof and let the wind make them cry, people who are afraid to cry, people who step on all the leaves on the sidewalk, people who look straight ahead. There are people who aren't like me. They don't know the names of all the different apples. Once when I was cashiering, a woman said to me, "Wow, you really know your kale." And once at the butcher shop, a man said to his dog, "That's the nice lady who smells like meat." I'm afraid I don't know what kind of person I am. I thought I would get a chance to do my life over in all the ways anyone could think of. Dying would be like changing the channel. I hate that you can't hold on to anything. I was washing an apple, and then I was coring it, and then it was cut. And that was weeks ago now. It was a Honeycrisp, and it lived up to its name.
Thank you so much. Lovely to hear you read that aloud. And you're right, this is like a really long, thin poem. For people who can't see it, I will link it somewhere, but you tend towards the longer line, I feel, in this book. You love to like stretch across the page. There are some you have to turn the page landscape to read it, right? And I wonder, for me, those kind of like shorter lines, you're really burrowing down kind of on the page, right? Lots of your poems are expansive. It's like the thought, the line that runs across. But here you're like narrowing in. And I wonder how you felt about that as you were doing it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's, I feel like if I had to guess, because this was maybe like 2021 that I wrote this, like, I think that like, it was kind of like I was saying, like I was in this mode of feeling like I wanted to, like, I wasn't spending time with people. I wasn't talking out loud a lot. Like, I wonder honestly, like how much that affected the work I was making, because I think that like a lot of times in the book, in other poems, it's like where I'm always using, like, I'm hiding, like whether it's like I almost admit something, or like I'm making a joke about something because I don't want to say it, or like I start talking about a random fact because I don't want to talk about the thing or whatever. And like, I think maybe that it's really just like a way of hiding, maybe like the short lines, like kind of tucked in, like that's how the poem feels to me. Like it's very timid, I think. Like the short line feels a little bit just quieter. I don't know. Like I think I remember feeling like, okay, I want to grow up. Like I don't want to write these big things. And then also, like, I feel like sometimes I'm just like, if the first break is really good, I'm like, well, I'll just try and make all the lines about that long. Right. So it's like the first line is just like the silence, the thoughts. And I bet I just liked that line. And also that was part of it too. Yeah.
Was that the beginning? Do you know if that was the beginning? Was that always the beginning?
I think so. I mean, I do like when there's some sort of tension between the title and the first line. So like, basically like I said, I was living in Wisconsin, and I wasn't really seeing my friends very much. It was like 2021 or whatever, like, anyway. So I was living back in the place after that I had my like 20s in, after like being gone for a while. So the things that are in this poem, like the kale and the butcher shop, those are things that like had happened to me in the town I was living in, but like 10 years previous, that I had been retelling those things for like, because they were so funny. Like I just had never forgotten them, And then when I was writing the poem, I was like, oh, that someone has told me what kind of person I am before. Anyways, I think that I was alone, and I just finished the MFA, and one of my classmates had just like passed, and it was her name was April Freely, and she's a poet, and she had written and was like writing a lot about basically just like Black women's health and how it's not taken seriously, like broadly. Among many other things, but that was like kind of one of the topics of her work. And so when she like died all of a sudden, it kind of like, it was so sad, because it's sad anytime someone dies, but also like it was like the thing that she wrote about. And it was just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like knock on wood, but I feel like I've been pretty lucky in that I haven't experienced like a ton of significant grief in my life. So I kind of, that like, I think this poem is so much about like literally being like 30 years old. I know that that's such a like a bland way of putting it, but like I lost a friend, and I felt like my voice was changing, and I was literally like, oh, I'm going to die too. Like there's another poem I wrote at the same time as this, which is like the bad version of this poem. And it's basically a poem about how I was watching like a Cary Grant movie, and I was like, everyone in the movie is dead. Like the parrot is dead, the dog is dead, the director's dead, like everyone's dead. We're all gonna die. Like it was just this bit, like it was, I was like, I'm gonna die. But that was like, I think like that idea that I had like put so bluntly in the other poem, in this one, I was able to kind of like, I think that's really like the thing, like, I say it in the poem, but like I was literally just like, my friend died, and I was like, that could be me. Like, I'm not 24, even though ironically everything in the poem is from when I was 24.
What's interesting is the poem, it starts like, what am I afraid of? And like, it could easily just be a poem of listing all the stuff. Do you know what I mean? But instead it becomes a poem about like, what kind of person am I? Which is really a different question from like, what am I afraid of? Or like, what is a person? What kinds of people are there in the world? Can we categorize people? Right? Is it just their actions or the kinds of things they believe in? There are two kinds of people: the unhealthy people who refuse to get help, and healthy people who always think they're dying. And it's like funny, but it's also this kind of like schema that the poem's like, is that the only two options? Right? Like, is that all we have? So what's interesting is that like, it maybe the poem starts in that sad place of what am I afraid of? The silence, the thoughts break that come with it, which is a great break. It's like the silence and the thoughts, but also the thoughts that come with the silence, which is a whole other meaning. But the poem then goes elsewhere, right? We end with like beauty and like things being what they sound like, the Honeycrisp. So yeah, well, I'm really interested in that kind of like the biographical background to this. Like the poem also takes us far beyond that starting point, which is why I think I love it.
Yeah, I think for me, like I said, it was such a poem about death when I was
Mm.
writing it. And then as like more people have read it and like talked to me about it, you know, I feel like I have a friend that read it after going through like a really bad breakup. And she was
Mm.
like, this is like the thing I needed to read after my breakup. And I was like, oh, like it's positive. I was like, oh, the poem is positive. Okay, I see that now.
Right. Right. Or it's like more ambivalent about
Yes.
both the question, what am I afraid of, and the question of like, what is a person?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why it was like, you know, so nice for my friend who had like been in this
Mm.
relationship for 10 years to read the poem and be like, oh, it's actually okay. Like, you could just be a new person. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's, yeah. I think there's shame in that
Mm.
sometimes where you're like, oh no, I don't want to change or I don't want to like try something new and then fail or whatever.
Mm. The poem does know some things, right? And, you know, we start with that, like loads of sibilants, silent, sinking, suspicion, something, self, right? It's like really starts in this kind of like quite like a very particular rhythm, right? And it's very personal, like something more is wrong with me than anyone knows, comma, including myself, comma, including the doctor who hooked me up to the EKG machine and like hooked me up to the EKG machine. Suddenly we have like some kind of like irregularity of sound.
Yeah.
And then you say out loud and said that though my heartbeat was irregular, the irregularity was normal. And that line, like the irregularity was normal, like that is also like another that's like another phrase for this book, right? Like that throughout the book you're like they're like here's the specific, here's the
Yeah.
irregular, and the irregular saturates our world, right? Like there's something so specific. I just love that phrase. It just makes me think so many things about the other poems, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. Thank you. That's a really nice thing to say. I mean, it's literally what he said to me. Like, you know, and I was like, oh,
Okay.
okay. Like, I don't know. Sometimes someone just says something to you so confidently
Mm.
that you are forced to believe it. Like, and I think, you know, like, I feel like I really wanted to, like, not be scared, you know?
Mm.
And so like I feel that that beginning of that poem is like me talking to myself. Like
Yeah.
you're okay. Like remember what the doctor said? Like
Mm.
everything's fine. Like and I was absolutely hooked up to an EKG machine being like everything's wrong with me. And he
Yeah.
was like no. Like you're one of these people. This is just who you are.
Right.
And I was sitting there with him being like showing me my results being like literally like he was like, you don't need to get hooked up. We don't need to do your heartbeat. I was like, yes, do it. I want to know. You know what I mean? Like, like something's wrong with me. I know it is. Like, and also it was coming from like, my friend just died. Like no one listened to her, you know, and no one listened to her mom who had just died earlier before. And that was like what the poems are about, like, and
Right.
caregiving and all that stuff. So I just was like, I didn't believe him, but
Mm.
it was also, if I were going to be like close reading this poem, it's like, that is the first period in the poem, you know, like,
Yep.
is really like me trying to be like, there is nothing to worry about, Sasha. Like, here's the one sentence that's going to fit on a whole line. Like,
Yep. But there is something like it was nothing to worry about, and it's like okay, but you know, like there's a certainty, but also like an instability too, because then the doctor just says there's two kinds of people, and then you or the poem is kind of like there's nobody's in between. But I've met break so many kinds of people, so I think that's also interesting, right? Like nobody's in between, but I've met, and there's just like suddenly the expanse of like the page, right? Like, but I've met who knows what, but so many kinds of people. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
it's too much.
11 peoples, right? In those next lines.
When I read this out loud, I'm like, you got to cut some of this, girl.
But I think
like, I get it.
It's interesting, right? The repetition is interesting. It's a kind of thing we might be like, oh, that's like a lot of people, but at the same time, it's like you're driving home by repeat. You know, it's when you repeat a word so many times it doesn't sound like a word anymore. Whatever that thing is, and you're like, that's not how you spell it. That's not a real word.
This is all, yeah.
People becomes so capacious as a word by the end of the poem, so that the kind of the doctor's like, you're in this camp or this camp kind of falls apart in a way.
Yeah. He was such a nice man. But it is like, don't you feel like that's such a thing in a poem where, or like a genesis of a poem for me? It's like someone says that and I'm like something and I'm like, I don't agree with you. Like, I feel like so much of my, and this is so funny because I'm sitting here being like, this is a poem about death. And like, this is a poem about like being like, no, you're wrong, actually. Like, it's coming from this like angry, scared place.
Mm.
And then, yeah, I don't know. And I think that like, even though now I'm like, I would condense some of this,
Mm.
it is kind of nice to just feel like at a certain point, it just becomes sort of like, and you have met all these people too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
you know, like you're going to, and also like you are one of these people, like
Yep.
hopefully on this list.
Yeah.
And I think also like it's setting up kind of, I like that, you know, like the carrots are in there. Like something that I really like about, I'll just keep talking about Diane Seuss. There's something I like about Diane Seuss's books are that they feel like middle class, like, or American middle class, whatever, you know what I mean? Like you're like, I'm always, she was poor, you know, like, and that's there. And so like something about this poem is like, I have a job. You know, like I've met these people because I worked at the co-op and because I worked at the butcher shop. And like these people came from standing and being forced to meet people all day. And then eventually the poem turns to like them looking at me and telling me what kind of person I am, you know, like, but I think like you're making me like this, I'm like, okay, maybe it is okay that it just goes on a little long. But I think I was just thinking about all the versions of myself, you know, as well. Like I would say like at one point probably all these things would describe who I was and who I am, and something that had changed about me, like in this, you know, 5-year period where I'm like, holy shit, I'm 32. Like, what the fuck? You know, like, so, yeah.
Yeah, and like it kind of opens up space for identity being like way less rigid than we might think. And I think there's the play in the book title, Joy is My Middle Name, right? Which makes us think like, oh, this is like very, you know, she's telling us something about herself and her identity and like whatever. And what am I afraid of? I'm like, okay, we're going straight in with the confessional or the, you know, whatever. And actually by the time the poem ends, you're kind of like, I don't know what a person is at all. Right? Like, I'm like, sometimes I peel my carrots and sometimes I don't. It's like, like which camp am I in? I don't know. It depends on the day, right? Like sometimes I peel and people around me are like, what are you doing? You don't need to do that. I want to do it today. Leave me alone. Right?
I've got some extra time on my hands.
Yeah, exactly. Or just like, you know, I just want to peel them. That's fine. And I think that sense of like, I know what kind of person I am is one of the like myths or stories that you're trying to poke at in the poem. You know, people are so certain of who they are sometimes, I think. And that always worries me when someone's like, I'm X kind of person. I'm like, are you? When? Today? Just today? Or just in this moment? Because and I think there's something quite freeing about this poem. And I think its repetition's a part of that, right? By having irregularity, repeated. There's also like the including repetition that was early on, right? You're not afraid of repeating words.
No. I only know.
But I think it's quite liberating, right? It's the kind of thing you're like, oh, why is this repeated again? Like what's going on with that? It draws my eye.
Yeah. And I also think, I feel like this is a time period for me where like I was really trying to be conscious of what my norm was. I feel like probably in the 6 months after this poem, I was really always like, you always use repetition, like cut that out. You know what I mean? Like and there's always anaphora in your poems. Like you need to stop. Like that's how they all end. Like, like someone's gonna notice. And so like, I feel like it's nice because it's weird. Just, I feel like this poem is so in the center of like how I used to write and how I write now. Like you're pointing all this stuff out to me and I'm like, yeah, like the people, like all the anaphora in the poem, it feels like very something that I would cut out of a poem now because I feel like I only really use it when I'm like, I must, you know, otherwise I'm like, well, if the sentence still works without the anaphora or without the repetition, like I don't know that I need it, but I feel like I hear it kind of just, I don't know, like, yeah, I think it is really like just coming from a place of like really like like there's a question mark in the title. You know what I mean? Like there is literally like, for me, if there's, a punctuation in the title, it's like, then I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's a person for asking themselves like a genuine question. Like
Yeah.
I was really scared at this time in my life, like about everything changing. And there's something so interesting to me about like looking back and being like, wow, this is so hectic. This is so much. And then you look at the poem and it's so
Yes.
like a slice.
Yes.
Like I feel like I'm always trying to like it's an attempt at neatness in a feeling that's like really not neat.
But like neatness, but also like precision as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, I love your poems because they like run across the page. I think there's something really like freeing about it, even while I'm like, there's nothing free or happy about this, right? Like Sasha knows what she's doing, but they feel free in a way. And whenever I try and write a line that's longer than 6 words, I'm like, this feels so unstable, Chris. What are you doing? Like, I don't trust myself to go across.
I love the word unstable. It's true.
Like I do not trust that the line can hold the weight of all the words, but you do it so well, and I think it's so striking to then turn the page and see this like long, thin one that then gets like so intimate, and it is about like your fears, but then it is like super expansive about the kinds of people in the world, and then you've got this like kind of a turn. Like there are people who aren't like me; they don't know the names of all the different apples. I'm like, apples, okay. That's not what I expect in this turn in the poem.
Yeah.
And you get once when I was cashiering, and I'm like, it's such like an interesting turn in the poem, right? You've gone from like the very personal and the doctor to like the kinds of people in the world to back to you or the speaker, whoever it is. A woman said to me, wow, break. Even like there is like such a good break, right? A woman said to me, wow, because that could be anything, right? But instead it's like, you really know your kale. And you're like, oh, like I've had so many of those social interactions, right? Where it's like the setup and then the underlining part.
Yeah.
And once at the butcher shop, a man said to his dog, like, of course he said it to the dog, that's the nice lady who smells like meat. And you're like, oh, okay. Like the first one like made me laugh. The second one I was like, oh no, I know this man. Right. But it's just so funny that we've gone from like those really broad designations to these very specific people, and you give them like quote marks too, right? Like this is speech. And I'm like, oh, okay, we haven't had speech in a while in like some of these poems. It's a very interesting choice, right?
Yeah. I mean, those are things, like I just said, that I just never forgot.
Yeah.
Like I never, ever. Yeah, like truly. And I think that if I'm being honest, like there are just those things where those were in my brain, like waiting. They were like sleeper cells, just like one day we are going in a poem. If a man says to you, that's the nice lady who smells like meat, like it's kind of like, like when you're going through a breakup or whatever, and you're like, at least I'll get content out of this. Like, like, okay, he said I smell like meat. So like, I have to write that down, or else like someone just said that to me and I have to live my life like that forever.
Yeah. Someone else needs that line to saturate their brain, Yes,
exactly. Get it out. But I feel like, yeah, I don't know. And then also I do think it is like, I think I go too far without making a joke. Like, it's funny that you're saying like when the line is like longer than 6 words, you're like, it might not be able to hold it. And when I go like shorter, I'm like, people are going to find out I'm a bad writer. I don't know. Like that's sometimes I get really self-conscious about my vocabulary, I think, or for whatever reason, like, I don't know. And so it's kind of scary to be like, okay, I'm going to do it. Like, and I think this poem is like a place where I'm just being so vulnerable in a way that it makes me deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so like, I think I got to the point where I was like, I have to put a joke in here. Like, I need to give myself a break. Like I'm being too genuine.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's like a really interesting flip on the way. Yeah. I understand that, but also your language is like your language, right? Mm-hmm. Like every poem I'm like, oh, that's Sasha. Like that's your language. I would rather you not use other words. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Same with the Zeus book, right? Like those sonnets, like she does not go stray far from like her vernacular.
No.
And I'm like, well, that's good. Like I want that. I don't want someone using weird, long, strange words. I'm like, what? Like it feels right. Yes. So much so that like the next line is, I'm afraid I don't know, break, what kind of person I am. that is that 2-line, that is the break, right? Because it would be very different if the whole line was, I'm afraid I don't know what kind of person I am. If it was a traditional, like, longer line for you, it would land, but it would land in a very particular way. The break means, like, it opens up, I'm afraid I don't know what kind of person I am. Like, that to me is like why this thinner poem works.
Yes. I love talking to poets because I can like, you get that, like, that line break that's like a scary thing for me to do at the point I was in my life. Like, I think, like, I always constantly need to be reminded that, like, the things I was saying before, just that, like, I love when people are honest and open and genuine. And so, like, it's okay that I could do that too. Like, that's what a poem is literally for. But
it makes me, like, you want someone to think with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to weigh in, but then I also want to be like I want to gasp a little bit, right? And I do that throughout your book. Like, every single I was reading on the train and I was just like, and I was like, okay, put it down, Chris, put it down.
Thank you. But I also think, like, it's a move where it's like, probably I had the idea in my head. I have to imagine that, like, I would answer the question in the title at some point with the genuine answer. And so, like, even that is something that I think I would have been scared to do, or feel like I couldn't have pulled off, to be like, oh, actually, I didn't forget, by the way, like, I'm going to answer the question for you. Like, you just have to wait for it. You got to get through all this other stuff. Like, it is such a vulnerable line break.
Yeah, but vulnerable and, like, super powerful, because even then, like, the next bit, I thought I would get a chance to do my life over in all the ways anyone could think of. Dying break would be like changing the channel. Like, whoa, you're really, like, giving it to us now, right? You're like, okay, we're not holding back. Dying would be like changing the channel. It's such like a startling image. I hate that you can't hold on break to anything. Like, the poem is trying to hold on, we're trying to hold on, and you're, like, quite relentless at this last bit. It's like you put the, like, pedal to the metal, or whatever the phrase is. I don't know. Like, you put your foot on the gas by the end, and then you do the swerve of all swerves midline, like, to anything, full stop. I was washing an apple break. It's like, we've gone back to the apple, Sasha. Like, you just got us to dying would be like changing the channel. And instead I was washing an apple, and then I was coring it, and then it was cut, and that was weeks ago now. Somehow that's, like, the saddest line of the poem.
It's
like,
so sad.
It's gone. It was a Honeycrisp, and it lived up to its name. Also, like, living up, I think, is such, like, a gorgeous idea, right? Like, like, the Honeycrisp lives up to its name, but also, like, and it lived up. Not like live down or live side. I don't know. There's something quite startling about that.
Right after the saddest thing I've ever read in my life.
Yeah, and I'm just like, a lesser poet, shall we say, would end on, I hate that you can't hold on to anything. But instead you took us back to the apple and this particularity. Do you remember that moment? Did you realize that you, like, needed to go somewhere else?
I think I literally had that thought. Like, that was genuine. That was that was just one of those images. I think this was also a time in my life, despite everything I've just said, I think I was like falling in love for real for the first time in my life, which is a crazy thing to bring up at this point right now.
Bury the lead.
But I think that, like, I remembered I was standing in his kitchen, and I had, like, it was, it was my first real adult relationship. I was 31. And, like, I had never, like, been in a relationship where someone was like, yeah, you can just be at my house and I'm not there. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, that was new to me.
Wow.
And I remember standing there, like, cutting this apple up for myself before I was going to, like, he had been at work for a couple hours or whatever, something like that. Or I was meeting him somewhere. Like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I just remember feeling like this is such a special moment. Like, I'm in someone else's house and he likes me, and I can, like, and he got this apple for me, and now I'm cutting it, like, and I know where the cutting board is, and I know, like, it was just, like, a really beautiful moment. And I think that, like, it had been just in my mind. I don't know that I had that. And so, like, maybe the carrot line and the cashier, like, I wish I knew, because, but I think it was kind of like that apple. I had written that apple thing down.
And then you were like, this needs to go at the end. I don't know. Like, you're really describing the writing process, and it just makes me even more stressed out because you're just doing this, like, you're just going, like, it just feels right. And I'm like, no, I want the trick of how you did this.
I wish there was a trick, but I think that, like, genuinely, that was like an image I had written down and didn't know what to do with. And then
Right.
I think in the moment I was like, oh shit, I had just written the thing about the fucking apple.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what it was. And also, like, just because I had already talked about the kale and the
Yeah.
carrots and all that stuff, like,
Hmm.
I bet that what happened is I did that and then I went back and added the line about there are people who aren't like me. They don't know all the different apples. Like,
Oh,
because
okay,
I'm
right. Yeah.
like, I bet, like, just as kind of like to prepare you that that's coming back
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. And maybe, yeah. And also, like, ugh, Honeycrisp apple. There's nothing like it. But as I'm looking through I found, like I said, I found this old, like, draft of the poem in my notes app.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And it's literally a poem about being scared of the basement at my house
Oh.
because there was, like, a hot tub down there. And it was, like, in the back. And I think I was scared of that. And so then what happens is sometimes, like, I'll have a document where I, like, start to write a poem and then I will use that document for, like, other lines.
Yeah.
And I think it literally is so funny because the title of the thing is What Am I Afraid Of? This last time this was edited was December 2021. And then it says The Silence. And then it says I was washing an apple and then I was coring it, then it was cut. Except for there's, like, a weird fact about piranhas being biologically male or something like that. It doesn't matter. And then it starts talking about the hot tub and the doctor and how scary it was and all this stuff. So, like, it looks like it's the beginning of the poem in this draft. Like, I don't know what happened. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think I probably had that image and then wrote the poem out of that image, but didn't realize that they were connected and then put them together. Like, it is always like, we're like, okay, it's like you're constantly battling between, like, craft and, like, what feels right.
Right. Yeah. And strange alchemy. But, like, what feels right is, like, good. The only other thought, like, before I ask you about your writing practice, which now I'm, like, super interested in, is, like, it lived up to its name is, like, the last word of the poem. And I can't help but, like, link that to the title of the collection, right?
Yeah.
Like, like, the idea of naming, and I know, like, I think you've said in an interview, like, Joy is your middle name. But also, like, it's just a brilliant, like, double meaning. Like, the poem has done so much to say, like, identity is complicated, the self is, like, unknowable sometimes, the kind of person you are is strange. But, like, the Honeycrisp living up to its name is, like, the poem's apex. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that does for me now. Like, what do I do with that, right? Like, how does one live up to their name?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like maybe that is coming back to just the idea of, like, my friend that I was missing and just like that being like, what am I about to be, like it's such but it's really, I think it ends on this really optimistic note, like, and then I just love food and poems, like to say that it lived, I'm immediately like, I can, like, taste in my mouth. And it's honey and it's crisp. Like, it leaves you with a taste in your mouth. I think that's just so nice. Like, I don't know. And I think that, like, I was always trying to put a bow on a poem and to, like, hit you over the head and, like, stab you in the stomach, like, and be like, look how, like, great I am at ending this poem. And I think that, like, this was, again, like, me trying to just be quieter, to just kind of, like, try my hardest to, like, not say a big thing. Like, just to be like, okay, I'm going to end on this image of me, like, coring this apple. Like, is this okay? Like, can I get away with this? Like,
I think you get away with it. I think you do.
I was reading over this old draft of this poem, and it actually is, the whole center of this poem is me, my friend. God knows which friend this is. I want to ask and find out who it is. But they had gone to a meditation retreat. And it was this concept of how you can think your thoughts and let them go. And I think that's what it was, of, like, I'm going to cut this apple and then I'm going to let it go. Like, it's a thought. Like, what I wrote down here is, like, you think your thoughts and let them go the same way you smell a fart or taste a pear. The thought is gone and the fart is gone and the pear is gone too. I think that's literally where this is, like, the ugly version of this.
I love both versions.
I know. I'm like, maybe I can write them. Like, I should do something.
I wouldn't, now I'm so interested in your writing process. Like, obviously you're writing in these different documents and you're going back to them, but do you have like a set time or setup? Like, do you have like a practice or ritual, or are you just doing it as and when, like typing on your phone, etc.?
I feel like it really depends. I definitely should sit down and write more. Duh. Like honestly, I should sit down and like write something down every day in the morning or whatever. But like that's just not my life. That's not a lot of people's lives. Like, I think I would rather write something in my iPhone than not write something. Like even though I thought, people are like, I should be on a typewriter drinking like a cup of tea. Like that's not what we're doing here. Like sometimes I'm on the bus. I literally just wrote a poem on the bus 2 days ago, like in my phone, like, and it was a short poem, so I probably won't change it very much. But if it were a long poem, I think it would be similar to like this, where, like there's just kind of like a document with like maybe a skeleton of a poem and then like images and things I overheard like in that kind of time period.
Yeah.
And I think I just trust my like self enough at this time of my life. Not like, oh, I'm so good. I trust myself enough. I literally like, you just have to trust that like there was a reason why you were thinking about those things that week. Like, what did I was reading my friend Rob's Substack, and he had the description that Frank O'Hara said of like, I see this, I see that. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like I'm enough. I can be the glue or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah, I feel like I'll generally like, I'll have something, I'll have some idea. I'll type it on my computer, like on a document. And then when it gets to a point where I like actually really think it's good enough to keep working on it, I'll like put it in a Google Doc, and then I have access to it on my phone.
Okay.
But like it has to make it out of the document. I feel like on my computer is full of documents that are like a really good title and like one line.
Yeah, very like I feel seen. Someone said something to me the other day and I was like, can I just write that down? And they were like, sure. And I just like wrote it. It's just on a sticky on my desktop. I'm like, have I written it? No. Maybe it'll come back one day. Who knows?
Literally. I mean, I remember the day in like 2015 when that guy said that to me about the fucking meat. Like you never know when stuff is going to come back. That's why you have to write it down.
Yeah. But your poems are so, I don't know what the word is, like they synthesize so much, so many different kinds of cultural references and like registers. And I'm just always like, wait, how did you hold all of those things together, like in your brain, but then also on the page, right? Like you do lots of kind of cultural swerves so often. And I'm like, how did we go here? And so now I'm really interested in this idea of like, collecting and taking pieces from here and here and like moving them around.
Yeah. I mean, I think like definitely, I heard a poet once be like, oh, I write down a bunch of lines and images, and then like when I have enough of them, I'll like try and turn it into a poem. And I was like, that's not writing. You know what I mean? Like I was like, that's cheating. Like probably that was not, like that's not nice of me to say. I think whatever. And like I would never say that to like my student, or I'm like, whatever you call is writing is writing. But so I don't do that. Like I definitely am like, I have an idea and I have a thing, but like I think it comes from one, just like I like that a poem is like a very like, it feels like always like a pretentious like space I can't have access to, and so I'm like, well, I'll put the Real Housewives in there. Like and like just like truly trusting that like I've pulled it off before, so I can do it again. Like, and a lot of times, like, like the poem I wrote on the bus the other day, it was like a breakup poem, and I was really sad, and I was just like writing about the Civil War, and but I genuinely like, I think it's just safer. It feels safer for me to be able to talk about these things I feel comfortable with, because I'm so uncomfortable talking about like I'm sad. So like it's coming from a place, I think, also of just like, I'm going to put it all in there, and like, I'll admit the thing I'm feeling, but it's going to be kind of packed in. And also like I'm someone who like my whole life I'm like trying to be like, hey, I'm really obsessed with whatever, XYZ.
Yeah.
Everyone is like, Sasha, stop talking about that. And then I'm like, okay, fine. I'll write about it, I guess. You guys won't listen to me. Like, I'll put it in my poem or like, and I'll make you listen,
Yeah.
like.
I love that. Okay. I want to ask you, given that you do teach creative writing, are there any kind of like lessons or tips or kind of like things you set your students to do that you might want to share with listeners? Like a little thing.
Oh, we do all kinds of weird stuff. This is not something that I thought of myself at all. I took this probably from, I know that someone I worked with at a camp in Michigan did this with their students, and I kind of like took it and like moved it into other stuff. But I really love, I really love making my students sit on the ground and write, like, and then making my students like write with their left hand. Like someone was just like, we put so much emphasis on like making these changes. Like I was just talking about being like, I'm going to try and write shorter lines and like, I'm going to do all this stuff, but rarely do we ever like physically change like the physical way that we write.
Interesting.
And yeah, especially for me, someone who I'm always cutting out like 3 words per line. When I do a thing where I have to write in my left hand, like it's the only means by which I will not use 10 words when I could use 3. I'm like, well, I'm not writing 10 words with my left hand. So like, I guess I'll figure out how to write it in 3 words this time. So I liked making them do that because then they also get angry. But the thing that I'm doing right now is with my intro students, we have to do like a collaborative project. And so something that I do is I'm always taking pictures, like just of every little image. So right now I'm just having them each like have just like a folder in their phone where they like, I don't know. In one class I called it beautiful things, and in the other class I called it little details. And I want to see if that makes a difference or whatever. But I don't know, like I'm always just like, if I see something, I'm taking a picture of. Like it's not just notes. And then a lot of times I'll put that picture in my notes. But I feel like, especially for like younger kids, like, and me too, I'm like always like, I want to put my headphones on, I want to be looking at my phone. Like, it's a good experiment to be like, I actually have to get up and like look around.
Like pay attention, notice.
Yeah. And then I just really want people to realize that like I tried to show them examples of things that like aren't typically beautiful, like the electric scooter buried in the snow or like, things like that. Like I think the thing that kept me from writing poetry is like feeling like I didn't see myself reflected in it. And I didn't see like I try and tell them like, yeah, you can put that in a poem.
Yeah. Whatever you want.
Put it in there.
Yeah. Just put it in there.
Yeah. Like no one's going to stop you.
No, it's your poem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Okay. My last question, other than Diane Zeus, obviously, but like what books might you recommend to listeners? Things you're reading now, old things, new things, things you return to, whatever you like. Doesn't have to be poetry, but obviously.
Oh my gosh. Right now I just started reading The Coin, which is a novel. I literally read like 45 student submissions and then like was moving things around in my backpack and like pulled the novel out and it was like, I'll just read the first page. Even though I just read things I didn't necessarily want to be reading for like the last 4 hours. And I like physically could not stop reading it. It was just like, like pulling me through. So I feel like the second the school week's over, like Saturday morning, I'm just going to wake up and like just finish that. I'm loving it. I really love, well, like literally just here, I was looking through these. This is Stephen Duong's book, At the End of the World, There Is a Pond. Stephen and I did like the MFA together and our books both came out in Norton together.
Oh, wow.
And I love this book. And then there's lots of sonnets in it. Like Stephen's a fiction writer, like technically, I mean, like obviously he's a book of poems, so he's a poet, but like there's like this like series of sonnets that are called Novel, and it's like about writing a novel.
Ooh.
And it's just like so interesting. I love the book, and I just love the cover too. It's so pretty. And then I always tell people to read this book because it's like the best book ever written. Elisa Gonzalez's Granta. It's just like I feel like as a writer, I don't know if you feel this, but sometimes you see other people who are really successful and like beautiful and wonderful, and you're like, that's annoying. and then like you read their book, and like at least that was my experience with Elise. Not that's annoying, but I was like, wow, like we're about the same age and she's so beautiful and so smart. And then I read the book and I was like, oh, and also like this is the best book ever written. Like, okay, cool, like good to know. Like you just can't even be jealous of someone at that point. They just deserve it. And you're like, wow, I'm so happy for you. But I just think this is such a beautiful Grand Tour is such a beautiful book. And then also like one of my students one day was really like, you would love this poem, and brought me a poem from this book. And so I think it's like accessible and also like super challenging. Like I just think she's just such a master. I'm so excited to finish The Coin. Like I can't wait until the week is over so I could just read it all at once.
That's right. You're the second person that's recommended it in this month.
Okay, wow, this is
like huge. It's clearly the book that everyone should be reading right now. So yeah, go read it, people.
Love it. Well, my book got nominated for some prize, like longlisted for some prize, and then I was like, well, I'll read what won last year just to see if I've shot. And then I was like, but I love this book.
Sasha, when you described that other book, like, oh, these people, like, oh, they're just like amazing and talented, and just, like, this is how I feel about you. So like, please take this away.
And someone else probably feels that way about you too. It's all a circle. It's just a
circle, yeah.
Like we're all just like each other's fans.
Yeah, exactly. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a real joy to talk to you.
Ditto. I'm like, get me back to the UK. I want to be friends.
Anytime. Please come back.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more poetry conversations, I recommend you could go back to episode 4 where I talked to Richie Hoffman, or episode 9 where I talked to Victoria Adukwe-Bully. Please subscribe if you haven't already, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or YouTube, and do share with people on social media. Follow the show and me on Instagram at Books Up Close. Tag me in any posts of episodes that you like. And if you can, please do fill out the feedback form, which is linked in the show notes. I'll send you some Books Up Close merch if you do. You can just send me a message. You can also get show transcripts and more information by subscribing to the Substack. Books Up Close was made possible by an Impact Accelerator Award from the University of Hertfordshire and the Arts and Humanities Research Council.